Good afternoon, Steve. Delighted to be welcoming Steve Wild, Managing Director of Peel Media, who own Media City. Steve, welcome to Proper Tea with OBI.
You, glad to see you. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to have you on. How have you been getting on?
I've not got a cup like yours. It's not fair.
Oh, that is a good mug. That's probably won the award for best mug so far.
How are we getting on? We're getting on okay. I think we're all settling in a little bit to the different way of working. Team's doing well. They all seem to be doing okay. I think we've gone through the loving working at home to a bit of a mix would be nice. So I think people are ready to get out and about again. Been keeping busy.
The Media City story must be like an interesting one because of the type of occupiers and operators you've got down there on the campus or the city or the estate.
Yes.
Clearly, some people will have been able to stop work, but I would imagine the likes of ITV and BBC, it's not quite so easy. So have you had to keep the estate going and office buildings running?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's less people operating there than there were, but just look at BBC. I don't know how you've got young kids. Look at the BBC Bite Size.
Yeah.
Out there, a lot more education, children's programs, all that coming out of Media City. So whilst they've done a lot where they can move it to remote working, there's still a couple of hundred people for the BBC. ITV, there's still quite a few of them in. And obviously you might have read in the press that ITV is starting to refilm. They start filming again at Coronation Street. So we're seeing those bits and pieces. And booths are still open. Should you want to go shopping? There's still some food there. And of course, it isn't an office development, Media City. It is a true city. So, just before these issues struck, we'd just finished 590 apartments on top of the ones that are already there. So there's a lot of people actually live at Media City. So they're still there, they're still around, and they're still shopping.
And you've had to keep sort of security, sort of patrols, etc. Is all that carried on? Yeah,
but it's about it's making sure that people love Media City because it's clean, it's safe, the nice amenity. We might not have mown the lawn quite as often as we might have done historically and tended the flower beds, but we've still kept it looking as nice as we can. And some great things have gone on as well. So yeah, the security are there, but the M&E guys are still there. So you'll have seen some fantastic pictures of it lit up blue too.
Yeah, that's good. That.
Yes, these guys are still, the guys and girls are still down there working hard. There's a slightly fewer of them than might have been. We're at full bore, but they're still there. And we're actually now working through the reopening and making sure that those customers that want to go in the spaces can do so safely and with everything that they expect from Media City.
So we've noticed a few more people starting to sort of wake up again in terms of the back to work piece. Have you felt the same?
Yeah. So obviously you touched on the big boys before, the Beavs and ITVs of this world now. They are trying to get back to making more content. So you see, to say Coronation Street starting, but they need to get going again. So we're seeing that, and some of the smaller enterprises they're still active. They've still got contracts. They're still delivering on them, and they seem to be quite keen to get back to a balance of not all just being at home, but also being able to access the campus as well. So that's starting to come through, and the community. So we've been doing a huge amount on working with the community, such like in the meantime. So I don't know if you ever go and search for the Spotlight On series that we've done at Media City. So we've had some really great things. Spotlight on podcasting with Russell Kane, Russell T Davis doing one on filming, and we've done a lot of series of stuff there. So Media City's never actually turned off. It's always been there. Its community's always been there. It's just nice to see a few more people starting to wander around.
And for those, Steve, that haven't been down to Media City, they've obviously missed an awful lot, which has happened particularly over the last 2 or 3 years. Just in a whistle top tour, can you just explain that the history, just what it is now, because it is far more than obviously two big broadcasters.
Yeah, you know my problem is always going about half an hour about this, so I'll be as quick as I can. So, because some of you may remember back in the mid-2000s, there was a desire by the BBC to move large chunks of their operation outside London. And this was sport, children's, a lot of their technology guys in their local and regional news. And there. So we sort of obviously ran the competition for that. In a way, the only difference was we viewed this as them being a partner to start a complete new destination for the creative digital industries, as opposed to just taking a lease and building a building. So off the back of that, you start to build a cluster. So shortly after that, ITV joined there. It's also important that there's a lot of talent and freelancers there. So the University of Salford joined, and it sort of continued to grow, and not just major corporations. These are people who would historically have done things in a sort of back bedroom or something like that. And there's about 270, 280 smaller companies there as well now. And we've just done a sort of accelerated program for new tech developments in the health industry. We're just launching one for connected cities, on smart city, smart buildings, which were really applicable in the sort of post-COVID piece that we're talking about now. So you're seeing, hopefully, some of the greatest inventions coming out of Media City. But yes, it's where content is made, but it's where content's consumed, made, and used for technological pieces as well. But not only that, it's a destination. So a lot of restaurants, bars, huge amounts of events.
How many bars and restaurants are there now, Steve?
Oh, now you're asking me, aren't we? About 10.
Yeah.
So you've got like the Alchemist, the Botanist, the Dockyard, Pret, Wagamama's, Prezzo. What else have we got? Then obviously in the quayside, which is the Lowry outlets, you know, we've got a whole range of other ones in there. Yeah. You've also got thousands of people living within a 5 minute walk. So it's a real destination in its own right. Good transport links, Metrolink are right into the middle of it, but also cycling, walking, very sustainable in there as well. Together with the 1 and a bit million square feet of offices and workspaces we've built, the largest HD studio in Europe. So a more high-end TV now comes out of Media City than anywhere else in the UK. Names like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, Blue Pizza, Match of the Day, Countdown. Some real well-known family favourites in there. So it's a really interesting mix of that slight razzmatazz of the telly, together with some really leading-edge innovation and a real innovation district in its own right, and anchored by a real great mix of people.
Yeah, and this is obviously the $1 million question, but what's your view on the future of the office?
If it was only $1 million question, that'd be all right, wouldn't it?
It's probably worth a bit more to you.
Workspace. People have sort of claimed that this is a death of the office. I don't believe it. I think workspaces will change.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably going to be really interesting. People, businesses will look at the reason for people being in those spaces. So not just going because the desk is there, but particularly as we're in this sort of innovation areas and such like that, people want to interface face to face, get together, collaborate. So I think the workspaces are going to become slightly more collaborative, different sorts of fit out and allow that team working piece in there, as opposed to just being a row desks for sake of it. And then you'll get, there will obviously be more flexibility in the workforce, but there'll be a reason and a function for people to go there and want to go there to interact with their team members, their clients, their customers. And I think there'll be much more flexibility through it, but a different way of usage. So it's not the death of the office; it might be the birth of the new workplace.
Do you think you get even more people driving to work in the short term?
There is an unfortunate piece, isn't it, that we've just undone that 5 years worth of positive messaging around environmental and green concerns, which are still there and actually possibly being emphasised by earlier on in this issue when everybody was proclaiming how clear the skies were and how more birds were tweeting and such like in there, to a stay away from public transport. This is short term whilst we do that. But in any event, there's going to be a variation in public transport and how it can do it. That'll be two things. One, more people will migrate to the car. And actually what we probably need to do is make sure that's in a clean and sustainable position. So we need to really look at, if we're going towards an electric vehicle, how are we going to put that infrastructure in now to be a facilitator change rather than be behind the curve? So, people will choose that. I think there'll be a lot of working, particularly through Transport for Greater Manchester, with businesses about changing the peaks and troughs of when they work. So why is everybody going in at 8 o'clock? Why, I think there's going to become more common that, it'll smooth out the peaks and so level out the demand and supply peaks as well. I think that'll come in. And together with, people may well not be travelling into the office every day because there needs to go back to the previous question. What's the function? What's the reason? Why are they there? And if they don't need to be there, then actually you may work from home, you may work from different environments. But if we don't do something positive to put the infrastructure in, then everybody will revert as far as they can to the car. We have to remember that not everybody's privileged enough to have access to that mode of transport, and therefore whether it's whether we look again at cycle hire schemes, electric scooters, increased cycling provision, walking, electric vehicles, all that lot, we've got to put the whole lot in there. If we don't do that, then there will be probably a reversion to things which are not great because the environmental issues are still there. They've not gone away. They're still the sustainability agenda is still very much there. And
obviously, you're running a big team at Media City. How have you got on? How have the guys reacted to lockdown?
They've been brilliant.
Yeah,
absolutely brilliant. I've been surprised. Everybody just rolled the sleeves up, got stuck in. It's a different way of working. It is a different way of working. And the speed at which happened, we managed to get infrastructure into most people's houses, but there's still the odd person sat on a settee all day long trying to do things. So we tried to work with them, but none of them have shied away from it. In a way, there's possibly a little bit more team spirit.
Yeah, good. Yeah, definitely.
And everybody looking out for each other, a slightly more friendly side to it, right? Which is great. I think if there was one point, I think there's a desire to be able to work physically as a team together a bit more. Obviously we've got issues, need to get over that. But if you were to speak to them, a lot of them are very keen to get back into the office, not necessarily 5 days a week, but to be able to then go, okay, then we are a team. How are we going to work together? But I don't think I could be prouder of them.
Good, that's great. Yeah, we've just finished a survey where most people said exactly that. Can't wait to get back in the office, but wouldn't mind doing 3 days in the office, 2 days at home. So
it's a different way of working. I've never led a team which has gone one day from working in the office to the next day and being distributed into their own houses. We've tried to. We're learning. We're trying to do our best.
Yeah, exactly.
We try to do our best. The usual team quizzes with some interesting fancy dress setups and DJs for the parties. So that team spirit and trying to keep it together has been great. So
yeah, I was telling the story to someone the other day that I went into the office and actually had less tech in the office than did have at home. So I went to the office. Yeah. First meeting was a Zoom meeting. I didn't have a camera. I didn't have a microphone on my work PC. So, it just shows you there's a lot to learn, but we'll make sure this blended work gets the right balance, I suppose, after a while.
I think we will, and I think it's also emphasising, particularly if you've got kids that are on the PlayStation doing this, doing that, you need some pretty good Wi-Fi in your house because it can be really put on it. There's nothing. I've had a few positions where you're on quite high calls, and all of a sudden somebody's clearly turned Call of Duty on upstairs and crashed the whole thing. So it's interesting. It's great fun. It brings a bit of humanity to the whole thing, doesn't it? It's quite interesting.
Yeah, it's that or just someone bursting through your office like usually happens to me. But Steve, what's next for Media City?
We've got to look through the short-term cycles.
Yeah.
I truly have a belief in Mead City, the cluster development that we have there. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here doing this. So, yes, there will be no doubt a short-term slowing a little bit in some of that growth bit, but we were very committed to the creation of new environments for people to work from. I'm going to shy away from new offices because actually, that's people to work from, live, visit, going on. The next residential building at Mead City will commence probably September, so we'll start on site then. We're looking at the next workspace development, as you well know, Will.
Yeah. Very impressive.
We'd love to see that. We'd love to see that cracking on site early 21.
Great. And I've got a few questions to finish.
Go on then.
Can
I choose not to answer them?
Yeah, you don't have to answer them if you can remember them. What was your first ever property deal?
Well, now I don't know if I can say this one. Do you know the answer to it?
I don't think so.
Right. Well, I had the pleasure of graduating in the late 80s, early 90s, when things were not of the best, and I went to become a graduate insolvency surveyor at Grimley's at the time. And the first thing I did was sell a bankrupt brothel in Prestatyn.
No, I didn't actually. I didn't actually know the answer to that. But
there you go.
What a question. Okay. What have you missed most during lockdown?
Probably the inspiration. It's great. The remote working's worked really great, but the inspiration that you get from having the team together that drives it through as the one side, and that's probably what I've missed most, together with just a bit of peace and quiet occasionally. And what I've missed least is not sitting on the M60.
Yeah, I don't blame you. And just to finish, Steve, what's been your favourite property deal of all time?
My favourite property deal of all time.
Can't be the first one, by the way.
It can't be the first one. Favourite property deal of all time. Oh dear. I don't know. I don't even know what. I'm not sure I know the answer to that one.
Well,
so I can't say Mead City. So I've got to shy away from that.
That's obviously a monster deal. But what one of you did you really enjoy doing?
I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
First, don't matter what you do here. Made 20 grand on it. Absolutely bob on. There you are. Set me in good stead.
Which one was that?
Around middle of Ramsbottom. There you are.
Is it?
Yeah. There you go. But no, I mean, to be fair, I've been spoiled. I've done all sorts of things. The deals you get to do at Mead City are great because they're not people for who property is the be all and end all. Yeah. You deal with the creatives at the BBC and ITV and all the small guys. They're a really great bunch in there. I remember the conversation about could we rebuild Coronation Street like for like, which I wasn't overly keen on getting involved in, to be perfectly honest. In there, some great things down there, and even some of the smaller ones. We've been doing quite a bit recently around the homeless and the charities, food banks and such like. And the most important deal I think we've done in the last 8 weeks is a letting of 5,000 square foot to a food bank at nil rent.
Yeah, fair play.
Most important. And you know what? They'll love it.
Absolutely.
They'll love it. So it's a whole range of stuff. So I don't think you're going to get me to have a favourite one.
Well, Steve, I'd like to say I really enjoyed that chat, mate, and thank you very much for coming on. I'm sure everyone else will enjoy it too, mate.
Thanks for the time. Look after yourselves and enjoy your drink.
Cheers, Steve. See ya.